Part 55. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wangshi-san. Chapter 541. Yeshen, ID. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. Race, human. Profession, assassin. Warzone, China. Faction, light. Title, Great Good Man, Perceiver, Hidden Weapon Master, Source of Evil, Thief Hand, Identifier, National Leader, Hell Messenger, Butcher. Medal, Medal of Courage, Martial Medal. Level, 83. HP, 156600 ///////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////// ///////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////// Agility, 30,010. Asterisk Physical Attack, 3301033990. Asterisk Fire Attribute Enhancement, 4758. Asterisk Fire Attribute Resistance, 17,800. Asterisk Perception, 2. Asterisk Critical Hit Rate add 100%. Asterisk Dodge Rate add 18%. Attack Speed 50%. Movement Speed 80%. Skills, LV25 Sap, LV29 Stab, LV35 Thief, LV21 Unlock, Stealth, Sprint, LV27 Throat Slitting, LV29 Bleeding, LV28 Wind Step, LV27 Spinning Stab, LV25 Trap Release. Rare Skills, LV28 Bleeding, LV36 Hidden Weapon Mastery, LV25 Shadow Attack, LV27 Stun Dart, Shadow Escape, LV27 Boomerang, Bloodblade, Shadow Stab, Flying Thunder God, Strong Invisibility, LV16 7 Star Kill, LV19000 Needle Slaughter. Equipment Additional Skills, Goodwill Aura, War Cry, Flying, LV7 Fighting Spirit. Special Skills, LV27 Poisoning, LV58 Forging, Blood Eyes, LV30 Breaking Martial Arts, LV28 Advanced Dart Production Blueprint, LV100 Power Attack, Team Teleport, Self-Recovery, Resurrection, Hand of Hell, LV25 Fire Hymn, LV23 Fire Armor, LV21 Armor Hardening, Tyrant Dragon Pattern, Sand Clone. Assassin Skill Tree, Final Blow, LV15 Murderous Aura, LV15 Killing Mark. Cross Professional Skill, LV15 Sea of Fire. Talent, Firm Will, Passive. Yechen glanced at the attributes and felt very satisfied. Now his strength has reached 30,000, his physical attack power has reached 33,000, and his fire strength is 4,758 points. Now he uses normal attacks, at least 1.5 million damage, Xiaohei doubles it to 3 million, crit doubles it to 6 million, LV7 Dochi doubles it 8-fold, that is, about 50 million damage. Normal attack 50 million damage, half a billion. Any skill is probably 700 to 800 million, the strongest piercing backstab, nearly 5 billion damage. Yechen's current combat power is far superior to the average Saint Domain peak. 2 finishing moves can kill him. Who else can? This is damage, and there is also defense. Now his defense is extremely terrifying. The average Saint Domain strongman may not be able to break through the defense, especially the fire domain, that is absolutely impossible to break through. Pervert. Yeshen, I am far from your opponent now, Jian Wuhan said with a wry smile. Promoted to Marshal, Jian Wuhan also obtained the full level of fighting spirit, and the damage increased 8-fold. But even so, his strongest attack now, the damage cannot exceed 100 million, only tens of millions of damage. And Yechen's ordinary attack is 50 million, the gap is too big, it's like heaven and earth. On the side, the Abyss Demon smiled proudly. He is a Super Saint Strongman, and now he has been promoted to Marshal, obtained the full level of Fighting Spirit, and the damage has increased 8-fold. The ordinary attack is 1 billion. If you use the Demon Sprint, you can easily kill the Saint Domain Strongman in seconds. Of course, even so, he is not Yechen's opponent. He has too few skills. Yechen can just throw a few mute scrolls to mute all his skills, including Fighting Spirit. It will not be difficult to kill him then. Don't worry, Jian Wuhen. You have the withering of all things. Even if you don't have combat power, no one dares to look down on you. Yechen patted Jian Wuhen's shoulder and smiled comfortingly. Alas, I am not very famous now. If I fight a few more world-class wars, my withering of all things will be completely exposed. Once the war starts, the enemy will mute me first, and I will have no way to deal with it. Jian Wuhen smiled bitterly, and now under your halo, I am like a supporting player, you know, I also admire combat power. Yechen was speechless. On the other side, in the world ocean, 3 warships approached the Little Man Island and the Giant Island. The next moment, hundreds of Saint Domain Masters took off and invaded the island. The leader was Ng. At this moment, he led the Korean team to come. He had more than 300 Saint Domain Masters under his command. At the same time, they blew up several bases. The guards had no power to fight back. Yechen's eyes shone. The base was blown up, so he naturally received a system prompt. What's going on? Yechen asked in the guild channel. Boss Yechen, a Korean team has invaded, with a total of more than 300 Saint Domain strongmen. Someone in the guild channel immediately responded anxiously. Koreans. Jian Wuhen, let's kill them back. Yechen roared, and teleported back to the Little Man Island with the Abyss Demon, Jian Wuhen, and others. For a while, the Saint Domain strongmen of the Chinese and Korean war zones stood opposite each other in the sky. The two sides had equal forces, with more than 300 Saint Domain strongmen each. Immediately, the passionate war cry broke through the sky, and a large number of flame walls and ice barriers appeared in the sky. The battle started in an instant. Jian Wuhen's eyes shrank, looking at the arrogant man opposite, with deep fear in his eyes. You should know that before Yechen rose to power, Jian Wuhen was the strongest player in the Chinese war zone. Before the launch of Dream World, Jian Wuhen would lead the Chinese team to the World Championship in other large-scale online games and esports, but he could not get a decent ranking. During this period, he and Ng had several battles, but the results were all disastrous defeats. This is also normal. Jian Wuhen is only a king, and Ng is a titled king. His title is Ng, which means king. The levels of both sides are different. How can Jian Wuhen win? Hey, Jian Wuhen, the defeated General Ng saw Jian Wuhen looking at him, so he smiled and greeted him, Wuxian with a contemptuous smile on his face. Jian Wuhen frowned immediately after hearing this, but he had nothing to say, because Ng was telling the truth. Jian Wuhen, every time I defeated you in the past, I would say that you Chinese people don't have game masters. Now I take back the sentence. Ng laughed, staring at Yechen with a cold look. Ng knew Yechen. The two had met and fought in hell earlier. At that time, he lost to Yechen due to carelessness. Because he lost due to carelessness, Ng found it hard to accept, but he lost. From then on, Yechen was added to his list of opponents. Now, Yechen defeated Queen Jingongji, and his fighting power was obviously extraordinary. He naturally did not dare to underestimate him. In fact, Yechen had the name of Overlord and was already a titled king, but he had not yet made a name for himself on the world battlefield. 010. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 542. Night God. I was careless and lost to you in the battle in hell. You made me wait so long. Now we finally meet again, Ing laughed wildly. He was a berserker, wearing a warrior suit and carrying a huge sword in his right hand, which made him look very powerful. Immediately, a black and exquisite token appeared in his left hand out of thin air, and a ray of light flashed, and a black hole appeared in the surrounding space. Chi! With a loud bird cry, a peacock with a black body emerged from the black hole. It was the nether bird. When the nether bird appeared, it immediately locked its cold eyes on the abyss demon. The two looked at each other, and there was a strong smell of gunpowder in their eyes. You should know that the nether bird is also a super saint, and its grade is higher than the abyss demon. In hell, the nether bird was far superior to the abyss demon, but now the abyss demon wears an exquisite medal on his chest, and a circle of green fighting spirit surges out of his body, like a bud that has not yet opened, wrapping the abyss demon in it. The nether bird is very intelligent. It can see that the abyss demon is much stronger now than before. That is why the fighting spirit emerges in its eyes. Summoning the nether bird, Ing summoned another little bat. This little bat is only the size of a palm, and its blood-red eyes shoot out fierce light. No one dares to underestimate it. Ye Chen also knows this little bat. Like his own Xiao Hong, it has the blood of a divine beast and can grow bigger or smaller. Sure enough, the little bat grew bigger in an instant, covering the sky and the sun, and pounced on Ye Chen, Jian Wuhan, and the abyss demon with a low cry. Humph, it's just a pet, dare you come out and show off? Jian Wuhan smiled contemptuously, stretched out his left hand, and shot a stream of earth fire on the bat. With Jian Wuhan's eyesight, he could naturally see that this bat was extraordinary, but no matter how extraordinary it was just a pet. Even if it was a holy beast pet, it only had more than 100,000 HP. Now Jian Wuhan could easily kill it in 1 second. But at this moment, the nether bird's eyes widened, and a layer of dark light appeared on the huge body of the bat. The ground fire burned on it, but it couldn't break through the defense, and it dealt -1 damage one by one. The bat laughed strangely, spread its wings, and rushed over. Run! Ye Chen roared. He knew the horror of this bat, and immediately reminded Jian Wuhan and the abyss demon. Instant transfer. After 2 evolutions, Xiao He was 100 times smarter than before, and had already distanced himself from Ye Chen. At this moment, seeing the bat rushing over, he immediately exchanged positions with Ye Chen. With a bang, the bat approached Xiao He, Jian Wuhan, and the abyss demon. The huge wings suddenly closed together and wrapped the 3 people. The body of the bat also changed accordingly. The next moment, it wrapped Jian Wuhan and the abyss demon, turning into a black ball, standing strangely in the sky. Xiao He was the invincible netherworld, completely ignoring the attack of the bat. After being wrapped, he immediately penetrated and escaped, and a dark red light appeared in the dark dagger in his hand. Obviously, this is the blood blade. Swish! Xiao He attacked mercilessly, attacking the black ball beside him crazily. However, the surface of the black ball was still covered with a layer of dark light applied by the nether bird. Xiao He chopped several times, but he could not break through the defense and dealt -1 damage. Gradually, in addition to the original layer of dark light on the black ball, complex and numerous veins appeared. These veins are mainly in 2 colors, blue and black. Seeing this, Ye Chen narrowed his eyes dangerously. As early as in hell, he knew the terrible ability of this bat. Once it wraps the enemy, it can absorb the enemy's BFF. At this moment, this bat absorbed the LV7 fighting spirit of Jian Wuhan and the abyss demon. In addition to absorbing BFF, it can also reduce defense. Dark wind. The nether bird opened its mouth and sprayed a dark hurricane, hitting the black ball. Suddenly, 2 huge damages appeared, both of which were more than 1 billion, and Jian Wuhan died directly. As for the abyss demon, he has 250 billion HP anyway, and it is impossible to be eliminated in a short time. Even so, the Abyss Demon is now trapped in the black ball, and he can't fight back when being hit. It's probably only a matter of time before he is killed by the Nether Bird. Xiao He continued to attack without interruption, but he couldn't break the defense of the black ball. To be precise, he couldn't break the defense of the Nether Bird to release BFF. Seeing this, Ye Chen rushed out immediately. Xiao He's damage alone was not enough, so what would happen if he added himself? Your opponent is me, sweep wildly. Ing roared, his body turned into a red whirlwind and rushed over, instantly twisting Ye Chen's fighting spirit and spinning close to him. In 1 second, Ye Chen suffered more than 10 injuries, but Ye Chen's defense was so strong that the total of these more than 10 injuries barely exceeded 10,000. But at this time, Ing was full of rage, turned into a domineering body, and the damage doubled. Humph! Ye Chen snorted coldly, and the Kylan dagger in his hand instantly turned into a blood blade, and blasted against Ing. Ing is also a martial, with full-level fighting spirit, and now he is even more powerful. His defense is terrifying. Even Ye Chen cannot kill him instantly, but he can cut off tens of thousands of blood points with one sword. Zayan.c. Because the damage is not high, the blood-sucking effect of the bloodlight blade becomes quite limited. It can only restore 10% of the blood points caused by the damage at a time. In other words, Ye Chen can only restore more than 1000 points with one sword, which is nothing at all. At this moment, Ye Chen and Ing are evenly matched, and it is difficult to tell the winner if they continue to fight like this. However, Xiao He did not participate in their battle. Flying Thunder God. The next moment, Xiao He gave up attacking the black ball, teleported over, and attacked Ing with Ye Chen. For a while, Ing's HP dropped continuously. Hiss, your damage can be doubled. Interesting, Ing has full-level fighting spirit, domineering body, and terrifying defense. Even so, Ye Chen can still deal more than 20,000 damage with any skill, which is really terrible. Back piercing the heart. Ye Chen's face was cold, without a trace of emotion, and the blood blade in his hand stabbed directly into Ing's chest. But at this moment, the Nether Bird opened its mouth and chirped, stirring up a circle of undercurrents, and it was actually the first to arrive and kill Ye Chen in one move. After all, the Nether Bird is a super saint, and killing Ye Chen in one move is nothing. If the Abyss Demon had not too few skills and was easily targeted, it could have easily killed Ye Chen. At this stage, in terms of damage alone, Ye Chen is now comparable to the Super Saint. Defense, even above the Super Saint. Unfortunately, his HP is too low, only 150,000. Super Saints can easily deal billions of damage, even if Ye Chen's defense is strong, he can't bear it. However, when Ye Chen died, Xiao He was not affected. He stabbed Ing's chest directly with his back, piercing his heart, killing him instantly. Before he died, Ing was full of disbelief. You know, he still had some means to save his life, but unfortunately he couldn't see Xiao He's existence at all, so he couldn't deal with it at all. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wangshi-san. Chapter 543. Resurrection. The next moment, Ye Chen was resurrected. In other words, Ye Chen won the battle between Ye Chen and Ing. But even so, Ye Chen's tense nerves dared not relax at all, because the Nether Bird was still there. Fortunately, with the death of Jian Wuhan, the black ball, that is, the bat, also disappeared, and the Abyss Demon was freed and roared angrily to the sky. Dochi. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. The next moment, the Abyss Demon's body surface surged with powerful Dochi, and its body moved, and the afterimage floated, using the demon's speed to circulate and penetrate the Nether Bird. -352-040-2 2010. -363, 923, 8240. -349, 204, 9201. The horrible damage continued to appear, but the power of the Abyss Demon was not enough to stiffen the Nether Sparrow. While the Nether Sparrow was hurt and screamed, it also swallowed dark fire and dark wind, causing horrible damage to the Abyss Demon. Hard rip. The Abyss Demon's black hand suddenly stretched out, pierced the Nether Sparrow's chest at once, and took out a fresh heart that was beating. This time, it actually dealt hundreds of billions of horrible damage, but suddenly, the Nether Sparrow, which had lost its heart, banged and turned into white mist and dispersed. Chi! A playful chirping sound came from a distance, and the next moment, the Nether Sparrow pounced and fought with the Abyss Demon again. The battle between the two guys was extremely fierce, and billions of damage appeared in the sky at any time. Yachen watched from a distance for a long time, but didn't dare to move forward. The Nether Sparrow was too strong, enough to easily kill him in seconds. Although Xiaohe is transparent and invincible, Yachen can only be separated from Xiaohe by 40 yards, which is far from enough. Any range skill of the Nether Sparrow can kill Yachen instantly at a distance of 40 yards. So Yachen can only hide far away. Yachen, leave this to me and the Abyss Demon, you go and kill the Korean sanctuary. Just when Yachen was in a dilemma, Jian Wuhan roared and rushed back again. Sanctuary players do not lose levels after death. The reason why Jian Wuhan is so confident is that he obviously wants to use Death Resurrection to infinitely refresh all things withered, weaken the Nether Sparrow, and assist the Abyss Demon. Anyway, the base is below. Once he dies, Jian Wuhan can kill him again in half a minute at most. Yeah. Yachen nodded and turned around decisively and rushed out. Sea of Fire. Yachen quickly rushed into the battle circle of ordinary sanctuary powerhouses, threw out a sea of fire at will, formed a wall of fire, and surrounded all the opponent's sanctuary powerhouses. -1 million. -1 million. -1 million. -1 million. -1 million. Yachen's Sea of Fire does not do much damage, with a group attack of 1 million per second. You should know that his normal attack is 500 million. Compared with the two, it is nothing. But the Sea of Fire caused damage, and Yachen accumulated combo points almost instantly. Backstab through the heart. -509, 439, 0402. Yachen stabbed a Saint Domain strongman in the chest with a knife, and the sharp red light shot through his chest pane and extended for dozens of yards. The bodies of several Saint Domain strongmen in this straight line were shot through, and their HP dropped by half, with horror in their eyes. What kind of damage is this? A single belief Saint Domain has Super Saint damage. The Saint Domain strongmen in the Korean theater were stunned. The Saint Domain strongmen have very good eyesight and can usually tell how many beliefs the other party has from the color of the other party's fighting spirit. Yachen's fighting spirit is fiery red, with no other colors. It is obvious that he is the preacher of the god of fire. He only believes in the holy domain, and his realm is just an ordinary holy domain, but Yachen's damage is comparable to that of a super holy domain. This span is too big, how can it not be shocking? Stun and final blow. Shocking star. -137, 482, 2031. -102, 040, 2099. -102, 040, 2099. -102, 040, 2099. -102, 040, 2099. Yachen hit the head of the Holy Domain strongman on the opposite side with another stick, and the violent force caused a shockwave that spread for dozens of yards. All enemies in this range were stunned, and their health was reduced by 1 billion again. Some fragile Holy Domain mages and archers fell directly, exploding countless equipment, coins, and materials, and fell to the ground with their bodies. Destruction storm. Ye Chen transformed into a battle gyroscope for the first time in a long time, and fired countless flaming darts, indiscriminately sweeping the surrounding enemies. Without the gyroscope warrior suit, Ye Chen now transformed into a gyroscope, which was the default size, about 1.5 yards high, and the sword wind blade was about 2 yards wide. But the damage was terrifying, and any dart could cause 400 to 500 million damage. The gyroscope made crazy choices, and the flaming darts were fired crazily. Within 3 seconds, enemy sanctuary strongmen continued to fall. 3 seconds later, the destructive storm ended, and Ye Chen returned to his original appearance, standing majestically on the sky. There was no enemy within 100 yards. On the other side, Jian Wuhan was assisting the Abyss Demon to attack the Nether Bird. All things withered. Jian Wuhan swept his long sword, stirring up a circle of withered yellow light waves. The next moment, the Nether Bird seemed to be brought into the next reincarnation by the law of time, becoming old and weak, and vulnerable. Even so, a skinny camel is bigger than a horse, and the Nether Bird easily killed Jian Wuhan in one move. Demons are running fast. -805, 024, 5301. -834, 020, 2011. -852, 402, 0011. -880, 403, 0120. The Abyss Demon ran like lightning, dealing horrible damage one after another, and the damage was getting higher and higher. The Nether Sparrow had extremely high double defense, but it was weakened to a dog at this moment, with only the last 10% of its attributes left. The Abyss Demon attacked it, dealing almost real damage, piercing through the Nether Sparrow more than 10 times in a second, dealing over 100 billion damage, and directly killing the Nether Sparrow instantly. In fact, the Nether Sparrow's HP was as high as more than 800 billion, but it was weakened by 90%, leaving only more than 80 billion. Under the condition of almost real damage, it could not withstand the Abyss Demon for a second. Roar. After killing the Nether Sparrow, the Abyss Demon roared excitedly to the sky. Then he went with Ye Chen and killed the enemy's strong men in the Holy Land crazily. With the help of the Super Saint, the battle ended unimaginably quickly. In less than 2 hours, the Korean team was completely wiped out. Ye Chen's Saint Domain powerhouses lost more than 100 people, leaving only about 200 Saint Domain powerhouses, and seized 121 Saint grids. In summary, it was equivalent to no loss, and the Korean team was directly defeated. South Korea is nothing great, boss Ye Chen. Should we conquer South Korea now? The main forces of the Chinese theater said excitedly. It's up to you. Ye Chen waved his hand. He was too lazy to attack South Korea. Now that he has become a marshal and has a full-level fighting spirit, continuing to attack cities or even countries will not improve at all. Of course, attacking cities and countries will definitely make huge profits, but Ye Chen is now worth more than 10 billion, the money he earns cannot be spent in several lifetimes, and he doesn't want those profits. 010. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 544. With that kind of time, Ye Chen is willing to make time to continue to open up the world's oceans. The world's oceans are mysterious and vast, and Ye Chen knows very little about them and has almost no experience with them. But he believes that the world's oceans must have a godhead. There may even be hidden gods. You must know that above the 9 heavens is the realm of gods. Only gods are qualified to go up. Similarly, gods do not have to go up. All the gods above the divine domain are gods, so even gods, especially those lower-level gods who only master one kind of law, are just cannon fodder if they go up, so there must be some gods who are unwilling to go up and directly retreat into the world ocean. Wouldn't you be free and at ease? The reason why Ye Chen guessed like this was because the player could definitely become a god. Only gods are eligible to go to the divine realm. In other words, players can only obtain godhood in the human world or hell, and only after becoming gods can they enter the divine realm. This fully proves that there are gods in the world and hell, and the number is not too small. The final battlefield is obviously the battlefield of God. Yuchen is now level 83, so he should have made preparations early. Moreover, the World War has just begun. Defeating the Japanese theater and the Korean theater is nothing at all. There are also powerful countries such as the United States, Britain, Germany, Russia, and Italy. Especially the United States. Before the Dream World server was launched, John led the American team to win the World Championship. It can be said that John is almost the strongest player in the entire server, and Yechen directly sets his sights on him, because Yechen's goal is to be the strongest in the entire server. Just when Yechen was about to lead people to open up the world's oceans, the guards in the Japanese war zone sent an emergency message. The Russian team came to kill a total of about 300 strong men from the sanctuary. Overlord, let's kill it. We can defeat the Korean team, and we can also defeat the Russian team. In that case, our Chinese theater will dominate this part of the world ocean. Everyone cheered. Now that Yuchen's combat power is unparalleled, and there is even a super saint like the Abyss Demon, they think there is no problem in defeating the Russian team, and they are extremely excited at this moment. Okay, let's kill them and decide quickly, Yechen roared, and together with Jian Wuhan, the Abyss Demon, and the last 200 strong men from the sanctuary, they were teleported directly to the base in the Japanese theater. On the other side, there is an island near the island of little people and the island of giants. There are multiple bases standing on this island, which is the territory of the Korean war zone. What? Russia is here too, are you kidding me? Ing looked confused and angry. You know, the war zone represents the country, and there is no real friendship at all. Now that all the major cities of the 3 major camps in the Japanese war zone have been occupied, it is only a matter of time before all the small towns and villages in the major cities are occupied. It can be said that the Japanese theater will be destroyed sooner or later and completely become the territory of the Chinese theater. In this case, who is willing to expend troops to help Japan? The reason why Ing helped Japan on behalf of the Korean war zone was because he had an ulterior deal with Jinguheim. So why does Russia? Is your brain broken? Could it be that those two beasts Arthur and Leon? A bad premonition suddenly appeared in Ing's heart, and he looked up to the sky and roared, Jinguji. This bitch, this female cousin, what did she agree to those two beasts' request? Ing's eyes widened. Indeed, he only had the most primitive possessive desire for Jinguheim and just wanted to conquer that woman. Even so, he still thinks Jinguji is his woman, or an object, but he cannot tolerate others to play with or defile her. What's even more dirty is that Arthur and Leon are two people. 3. At this thought, Ying could no longer control himself, the veins on his face rolled up, full of ferocious killing intent and hatred. Ing, what do we do now? Next to the towering base, in addition to Ing, there are more than 50 people, all of whom are strong men from the sanctuary. These are not Korean players. You must know that sanctuary players and sanctuary players each have their own advantages. The biggest advantage of the sanctuary is that it can easily generate billions or tens of billions. Sanctuary players generally only have about 100,000 HP, but sanctuary players will not lose level after death and can be resurrected. This is much better than sanctuary players. There are only 300 saints in a war zone, which will be used up sooner or later. In the end, it is still the stage for the players. Relatively speaking, it is much more cost-effective to train players with Shenga. Although the sanctuary has advantages, once it dies, it is really dead, and the explosion rate of the sanctuary is neither high nor low, almost 1/5. After all the saints are trained, after many battles, it is very likely that none of them will survive. Yechen Hokikinyun directly used 500 saints to cultivate, plus more than 100 holy domain villains. Now there are only 200 strong men from the Holy Realm left. What a loss. But he had no other choice at the time. If he hadn't been trained, the Chinese theater would probably have lost to Japan in the first battle. So it was a last resort, and now Ye Chen still has 250 saints in his hand, and Jian Wuhan also has 100 saints in his hand. They definitely don't dare to use these saints casually, they are mainly used to train players. It's just that the progress of the Chinese war zone is relatively slow. Until now, only Ye Chen and Jian Wuhan have exceeded level 80. The rest of Shang Wang, Lan Yan, Tank, and others are only around level 75, and they are still a long way from being promoted to the Holy Domain. What to do? Let China and Russia fight first. We go to open up the world ocean, Ing sneered. Hashin.cm. In the previous battle, all the holy domains under his command died in battle, but he didn't seem to care. Because he knew that sooner or later, all the holy domains would die. After all, the game is the stage for players. And his more than 50 subordinates are all holy domains, and all of them are marshals. The combat power is off the charts. Moreover, the Nether Sparrow died and fell asleep for 24 hours, and it can still be resurrected. So he didn't think he lost at all. In fact, he didn't lose. The World War has just begun, and it's too early to make a conclusion now. As for the goddess of the palace, he will never let her go. He must conquer her physically and mentally to eliminate the hatred in his heart. Arthur, Leon, and you two idiots, I will never let you go. One day, I will drive you off the stage of the dream world. Ing was so angry that his face turned pale when he thought of Jing Gyuji rolling under the two men at the same time. 010. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 545. Japanese War Zone. Ye Chen, Jian Wuhan, Abyss Demon, and 200 Saint Domain strongmen teleported to the main city attacked by Russia. The Russian team has more than 300 Saint Domain strongmen, led by Arthur and Leon. Both of them are tall white men, and they are full of noble aura. Arthur is a war master, which is a hidden profession. At this moment, he released a blue magic circle. Although it is a magic circle, it is spherical and covers a range of 1,000 yards. More than 300 subordinates are all in the magic circle. More than 300 blue light chains radiate from Arthur's body, connecting each subordinate. The scene is extremely weird. Ye Chen and others just arrived, but found that all the NPCs in the main city were killed, and the main city crystal also emerged. Leon, hit the crystal, Arthur snorted coldly. Liang is a full system mage. Hearing this, he began to chant. A second later, the whole sky darkened. From the sky above the clouds, there was a muffled sound of a giant falling and crushing the air. Meteorite falling from the sky? Everyone was startled. When they looked up, they found a huge meteorite falling. Finally, with a boom, it accurately hit the crystal of the main city, completely crushing the crystal. The shock wave swept across the sky, the ground cracked and exploded, black smoke billowed, and spread to the surroundings. In an instant, the center of the main city within a radius of 100 yards became a ruin. Ye Chen's eyes were stern, and the next second, the system prompt sounded in his ears. System, your Sakura city has been captured. Then, a white light flashed, and the originally dilapidated main city was completely renewed, and new NPC residents and guards were also refreshed. The main city crystal was also revived, engraved with the word Liang, and sank into the ground again in an instant. Humph, now that our Russian theater and Japanese theater have officially formed an alliance, you Chinese theater should withdraw if you want, otherwise, I will kill you without leaving a single piece of armor. Arthur looked down at Ye Chen and others from the sky and said coldly. Ye Chen looked at Arthur and Leon intently, and saw through their attributes. He found that neither of them had the title of Hell Messenger, and immediately smiled contemptuously. The Abyss Demon rushed out directly, leaving a trail of after images, and rushed towards Arthur and others. Fight against the dragon together. Arthur took a Guangong sword and swept it, and more than 300 subordinates in the magic circle were all covered by a translucent sphere. The next moment, the Abyss Demon pulled up a trail of afterimages and pierced Arthur, and all the members in the magic circle lost blood. They helped Arthur share the damage of the Abyss Demon. The Abyss Demon has extremely high damage, piercing billions of damage at a time, piercing back and forth more than 10 times a second, and dealing tens of billions of damage. However, the HP of more than 300 subordinates of Arthur added up to more than 3 trillion. What does hundreds of billions of damage matter? All members resist the damage together, and all members lose less than 10% of their health. This is joint resistance. The next second, Arthur swung his sword and swept it again. The terrifying power made the space tremble slightly. You know, it is easy to blow up the air, but it is very difficult to blow up the space. Only gods can blow up the space in a short time, and then it is repaired by the power of the space law. This blow of Arthur caused the space to vibrate, which is already extremely terrifying. Dragon slaying. -3054005300041. As the terrifying damage emerged, the Abyss Demon was cut in half by a knife, and a vast roar came out, shaking the world. Immediately, the body of the Abyss Demon turned into a black dragon phantom, disappearing between heaven and earth. The Abyss Demon had a blood volume of 250 billion, but was killed instantly by a knife. Hiss. Yechen and Jian Wuhan's eyes condensed, and they took a breath of cold air. The Saint Domain strongmen behind them took a step back, and their faces were covered with cold sweat. It was too scary. For them, the Abyss Demon was already an existence that they looked up to. Now Arthur killed the Abyss Demon with one knife, and they were trembling with fear. All of them were school-level officers selected by Yechen. They were all brave and dared to fight and kill, and had already put life and death aside, but this did not mean that they would die in vain. Overlord, retreat. The enemy is too powerful, we are not opponents at all. Yes, retreat first, and fight another day. That Arthur is too powerful, invincible in offense and defense, even the Abyss Demon is not his opponent. If we rush up, won't we die in vain? The Saint Domain strongmen screamed in fear. If they were not afraid of Yechen, they would have fled in all directions at this moment. Yechen frowned deeply, and observed carefully for 2 seconds. He found that the translucent sphere that Arthur had used to bless more than 300 subordinates disappeared strangely, and his eyes lit up immediately. Jian Wuhan, who was standing by, also noticed this, and immediately shouted coldly, "Why are you panicking? That Arthur must have used a big move just now, and it has cooled down now. Why should we be afraid of him?" Hearing this, Yechen nodded. Arthur was a hidden profession, the Lord of War. This kind of profession was also the first time he saw it, and he couldn't figure out the situation, but it was obvious that it was a big move, as Jian Wuhan said, and it had cooled down at this moment. That's right, everyone rush. If we really can't win, I can only get everyone out of the battle. Yechen has team teleportation, and he can run away if he can't win, but it would be too spineless to admit defeat without fighting now. Yechen roared and flew towards Arthur. The eyes of the strong men in the holy domain flashed for 2 seconds. After struggling, they gritted their teeth and flew out to follow Yechen's footsteps. The sword has no trace. Oh! Everything withers. Yechen and Jian Wuhan were the first to approach the sky battlefield. Jian Wuhan made a decisive move, and his long sword swept out a circle of withered yellow light waves, sweeping towards Arthur, Liang, and others. Dimensional wall. Liang snorted coldly, and with a flick of his staff, a door-shaped black hole appeared in front of him, absorbing all the decayed things. Light punishment. The next moment, hundreds of tiny lightsabers flew out and directly knocked Jian Wuhan away. Fortunately, Jian Wuhan is now a marshal, with full-level fighting spirit, and his defense has increased 8-fold, otherwise he might be killed by Liang. Tisk tisk, wzozyan.com. These two guys are both at the peak of the holy domain. Ye Chen frowned, and judging from the color of Arthur and Liang's fighting spirit, neither of them is a pure color, and they are both martials. Realm is realm, and combat power is another matter. Let's not talk about Liang first, but Arthur's combat power is obviously extraordinary. Catch the king first. Flying Thunder God. Ye Chen threw a dart with his bare hands, then teleported, stepped on the dart, and instantly got close to Arthur. Black Ball. Leon was right next to Arthur, and when he saw Ye Chen coming, he directly hit a black ball. This black ball has a strong suction force. Most people who are stuck by the black ball will not be able to escape until they die. However, Ye Chen's stiffness was unimaginable, and he resisted the black ball head-on without being affected at all. 010. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 546. Minus 1092. Minus 1101. Minus 1109. As the black ball slowly rolled, damage appeared on Ye Chen's head, and looking at these damages, Arthur and Liang's eyes were fixed. It was obvious that Ye Chen's defense and resistance were unimaginable. At the same time, Ye Chen ignored the adsorption ability of the black ball, and the blood blade flashed a red light, and cut towards Arthur's throat. Swish! A sound of breaking through the air sounded, and Arthur's figure disappeared directly, leaving behind a ray of brilliant blue light. More than 300 light blue rays like chains extended from Arthur's body, and the other end of the light was connected to more than 300 of his subordinates. He was able to reel in the line and reach behind any subordinate at a speed that was almost teleportation. Almost teleportation, that is, the speed is second only to teleportation. Ye Chen's throat-slashing move was in vain, because Arthur had already reeled in the line and came behind Leon at an odd speed, and then swept the broadsword across, breaking Ye Chen's defense and dealing more than 10,000 damage. So that's it, but what a terrifying ability. A flash of enlightenment flashed through Ye Chen's mind. He vaguely knew the ability of the War Master, but it was obvious that the profession of the War Master was terrifying and frightening. Even Ye Chen was envious at this moment. Dancing wildly. Arthur held the Guangong broadsword and spun wildly. As he moved, the blade continuously cut Ye Chen's body, causing Ye Chen's HP to drop by thousands. In addition, as he moved, he slightly distanced himself from Leon, and the strange light blue light like a chain appeared between the two again. Hiss! Ye Chen took a breath of cold air when he saw this, and had a new understanding of the power of the profession of the War Master. Too powerful, pulling and reeling in the line at will, and being able to move freely in the entire field. Worthy of being the War Master. Obviously, this profession is most suitable for team battles. One person may not be powerful, but with a team, the combat power is terrifying. No wonder this guy doesn't have the title of Hell Messenger. To become a Hell Messenger, he must fight against the black and white impermanence alone. I'm afraid he is really powerless alone. Ye Chen secretly analyzed that if Arthur was alone, he would have an absolute chance to kill alone, but now Arthur has a team, and his combat power is terrifying to the extreme. On the other side, Arthur's eyes were also very solemn. Previously, Liang's black hole could not absorb Ye Chen, and he felt something was wrong. Now his own dance could not even repel Ye Chen. How high is this guy's stiffness? Not only stiffness, but also defense and resistance are too high. You must know that Arthur is very confident in himself. This circular magic circle has the same name as the profession. In other words, the name of this skill is also called War Domination. It not only has the ability to pull and reel in the line, but also increases the attack and defense according to the number of lines. Just as Ye Chen expected, the Lord of War was not strong at all when he was alone, but the more subordinates he had, the stronger he was. With this flurry, Arthur could easily deal over 100 million damage with one sword. After using one skill, it would be fine even if he couldn't kill the NPC in the sanctuary instantly. After all, the HP of the NPC in the sanctuary was over 6 billion. But Ye Chen was just a player, with only more than 150,000 HP, and Arthur couldn't kill him instantly with one flurry. It shows how strong Ye Chen's defense and resistance were. The flurry was still going on, and Arthur was spinning wildly with his sword, hitting Ye Chen with a bang, and sparks flew everywhere. However, even such a high-frequency attack could not make Ye Chen stiff. Ye Chen was not affected at all. Self-recovery. He raised his hand and grabbed it, and a bottle of milk appeared out of thin air in his left hand. Ye Chen put it in his mouth and sucked it, and his HP was at 50%. Arthur fought hard for a long time, but he didn't take away half of Ye Chen's health. Ye Chen's health was restored to full at this moment, which made Arthur's mouth twitch. "You are really good at playing with this big knife, why is it so annoying?" Ye Chen sneered, and suddenly attacked. With a click, the blood blade cut off Arthur's big knife. Arthur stopped dancing frantically and stood there, his eyebrows twisted into a river shape, staring at Ye Chen with suppressed anger, wishing to eat Ye Chen alive. "My weapon is destroyed," Arthur roared hysterically. "You know, hidden professions, no, it should be single hidden professions. The weapons are rare. Arthur's big knife is a level 80 holy weapon, which is already extremely rare. Now Ye Chen directly destroyed it, no wonder he was furious. Die!" Ye Chen's eyes flashed, and he used up all the combo points and stabbed directly through the heart. You have to know that the previous strong attack that blew up Arthur's weapon also had damage, causing Arthur's HP to drop by half. Now Ye Chen attacked again, and Arthur was immediately furious. Although he was furious, he did not dare to take it head on. Real. The next moment, Arthur retracted the light blue light between him and Leon, and now strangely came behind Leon. At the same time, a new big knife appeared in his hand. Of course, this big knife is not a level 80 holy weapon, but only a level 70 holy weapon. In this way, Arthur's damage dropped again. There is no way, the weapons of the single hidden profession are too rare, and it is good for him to get 2 holy weapons. And he does not have Ye Chen's forging skills, so he can't follow the level. After Arthur dodged 2 consecutive killing moves, Ye Chen immediately understood that the profession of War Master is really difficult to deal with unless all his subordinates are killed first. At this point, Ye Chen stopped struggling with Arthur and attacked Liang frantically. Fire Element Shield. Ice Armor. Guardian of Light. Guardian of Earth. Night Clothes. In an instant, Liang opened BFFS, and with his full-level fighting spirit, his defense was terrifyingly high. Suddenly, Ye Chen couldn't even break through his defense. Condensation. The next moment, Liang fired with his bare hands, and Ye Chen was surrounded by cold air, and in the blink of an eye, he turned into a big ice block. Dark Touch. Black Ball. Piercing. Then, Liang and Arthur attacked frantically, and Hashian.om knocked down half of Ye Chen's health in an instant. You know, with Ye Chen's terrifying defense, it is impossible to lose blood so quickly. However, after being controlled, some BFF skills can't work, causing Ye Chen's defense to drop sharply. Because of this, Ye Chen's HP dropped again. Control is often the most disgusting means in the game, no one else. Instant transfer. At the critical moment, Xiao He fled far away and exchanged positions with Ye Chen, allowing Ye Chen to escape. Forget it, Arthur and Leon are both difficult to deal with. I will collect Arthur's other subordinates first. After teleporting away, Ye Chen no longer attacked back, but locked his eyes on the Sanctuary NPCs in the Russian war zone. Sea of Fire. Ye Chen casually threw out a sea of fire, forming a wall of flames, instantly trapping dozens of enemy Sanctuary strongmen in it. 010. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 547. The wall of fire burned the enemy. Although the damage was not high, Ye Chen's combo points were filled in an instant. A decisive kill. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. Ye Chen's eyes were stern, and the blood blade cut through the throat of a Saint Domain strongman, dealing more than 3 billion horrible damage. At that moment, the HP of the Saint Domain strongman dropped by 1/3. Reel in. Suddenly, a blue light flashed, and Arthur came and tore 2 silence scrolls with his bare hands, silencing Ye Chen's fighting spirit and the final blow respectively. You know, any mage profession can make the skills they have into scrolls. This silence scroll was obviously made by the Holy Word Mage. The Holy Word Mage is mainly a supporting profession, and the upgrade is very slow. At this stage, I am afraid that no Holy Word Mage can be promoted to the Holy Domain. Because of this, the mute scroll is widely used at this stage. Of course, the power of the Holy Word Mage is not only mute, but also read. You know, it is impossible to see the player's skills simply by recognition insight. Obviously, Arthur is a title king, powerful, and very familiar with the skills of various professions, but he does not know some rare skills or even special skills. For example, Ye Chen has the Tyrant Dragon pattern, Flame Armor, Armor Hardening, Blood Blade, etc. Arthur does not know the name, so he cannot mute. The same is true for Ye Chen. Arthur's War Domination, Fighting Dragon Slaying Together, etc. are all very powerful skills, but Ye Chen does not know the name, so naturally he cannot mute. This embarrassing situation will be completely broken once the Holy Word Mage of the Holy Domain joins the battlefield. It is conceivable how important the Holy Word Mage's position on the battlefield is. As for whether the Holy Word Mage can make read into a scroll, yes. But the skill scroll made is only the power of LV1. LV1 reading can only read one skill. If you want to read all the enemy's skills, how many scrolls will be wasted? And the efficiency is not up to par, and the Holy Word Mage himself can read more than 10 skills at a time. Therefore, the value of reading scrolls is low, almost no one uses them. At this moment, Ye Chen was silenced and his attack ended, but he was not panicked and continued to swing his sword wildly. Arthur and the attack Sanctuary strongmen also joined forces to attack Ye Chen wildly. Both sides fought. The blood-sucking effect of the blood blade was activated, restoring 10% of the blood volume of the damage. Now any skill of Ye Chen can cause more than 500 million damage, and one knife can restore 50 million blood. Ye Chen's current HP is only more than 150,000. With any knife, blood-sucking will replenish the HP. On the other side, the Sanctuary strongman was attacked crazily by Ye Chen, and his HP was also falling. What's wrong with this guy? Why does his HP increase the more he hits? What skill is that? Arthur stared at Ye Chen's blood blade. It was so long. Are ordinary daggers this long? With his eyesight, it was almost certain that Ye Chen had applied a BFF skill to the dagger. Unfortunately, he didn't know the name of this skill, so he couldn't mute it. You know, the stronger the user of the blood blade, the stronger the effect. In the early days, Ye Chen couldn't do much damage, and his blood recovery speed couldn't keep up, so he relied more on the blood recovery effect of the tidal source of sin. But now, it's hard to use the blood recovery effect of killing people, because his current enemies are all strong people in the Holy Domain, and they are really not that easy to kill. And the blood recovery of the blood blade is even more terrifying. Gradually, the HP of the strong man in the Holy Domain dropped to the freezing point, and a red skull mark appeared on his body. This is the killing mark. Ye Chen's killing mark is already level 15, and the frequency of hitting is getting higher and higher. Once the killing mark appears on the enemy, Ye Chen's attack will increase the damage by 5 times. Killing aura. Ye Chen's eyes were stern, and the actual dark red killing aura was stirred up on his body, covering a radius of 10 yards, causing Arthur and others in the range to plummet by 30%. In fact, his killing aura can only weaken 15%, but Xiao He also released it at the same time, which doubled the superposition. Spinning stab. -210, 040, 2301. Ye Chen spun in a spiral, and the sharp dagger pierced the chest of the Saint Domain strongman. As the damage emerged, the enemy fell gorgeously. Tisk tisk, even without the finishing move, can this guy's damage still exceed 2 billion? Arthur was shocked, and when he saw Ye Chen's eyes sweeping over, he quickly retracted the line and ran away. There is no way to fight. Ye Chen has high damage, high defense, resistance, and stiffness, and even has a blood-sucking effect. Arthur can't beat him anyway. We can only wait for the joint fight to slay the dragon, but just as Ye Chen guessed, the joint fight to slay the dragon is Arthur's strongest skill, and the cooldown time is very long, as long as 10 minutes. Now during the cooldown period, he dared not provoke Ye Chen again. Ye Chen was happy to be relaxed. As long as Arthur still had subordinates, he really couldn't kill Arthur, so he could only clean up his subordinates first. The team battle continued, and 200 strong men from the Holy Domain on Ye Chen's side had already joined the battlefield, fighting with the enemy, and fighting hard. Once Ye Chen and Jian Wuhan joined, they could quickly harvest the enemy. On the other side, Arthur was the same, reeling in the line at any time, suddenly descending at a speed second only to teleportation, and then slaughtering the enemy. But his damage was obviously not as high as Ye Chen's. As time passed, subordinates of both sides fell in this war of attrition. 10 minutes passed quickly, and both sides lost more than half of their troops. Only 150 Saint Domain warriors were left on Arthur's side, and only 100 Saint Domain warriors were left on Ye Chen's side. Although both sides lost more than half of their troops, Ye Chen's side was obviously in an advantage, because they had more than enough to defeat the enemy. Keep fighting, and annihilate the Russian team. Ye Chen roared, and at the same time, he burst into an impassioned war cry, which amplified the power of the war cry, and the fighting spirit and morale were even higher. At the same time, Ye Chen also pounced on the next enemy again, and suddenly a blue light flashed, and Arthur suddenly appeared in front of the Saint Domain warrior. Ye Chen chopped down with a knife and hit Arthur. Fight together. Ye Chen chopped down with a knife, and all the members of Arthur's side lost blood, but the damage was evenly divided in percentage, so not much blood was lost. Slay the dragon. Arthur roared, swept his sword, and cut Ye Chen in half with one blow. Then the yellow sand splashed everywhere, but Ye Chen escaped with the sand clone. Bad luck. After killing a clone with one sword, Arthur was very angry, but he could do nothing. Keep attacking, defend, reinforcements will arrive soon. As Arthur's subordinates decreased, his damage and defense decreased, and he was no match for Ye Chen, but he still did not give up. Because he and Jingguji had an unspeakable deal, no, to be precise, he and Liang were trading with Jingguji at the same time. These two people are worthy of being brothers, and they don't mind at all. As one of the parties in the transaction, he has the obligation to defeat the Ye Chen team and help the Japanese war zone regain freedom. 010. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 548. Young idiot, you can't hope for anything at all, and his entire army was wiped out. Jingguji had been relaxing for a day, and when she came online again to hear the news, she was immediately furious. Even if the whole army was wiped out, it didn't cause much damage to the Yagami team. This is the most annoying thing. However, she didn't know that Ing only regarded that battle as a test of the waters. There were more than 50 players in the sanctuary under his command, and all of them were marshals, with explosive combat power. If they had another fight, Ing would not necessarily lose to Ye Chen. It was precisely because Jing Gyuji had seduced the two brothers, Arthur and Leon, that made him angry and jealous, so he simply ignored it. Brothers Arthur and Leon are pretty good. Although they still can't defeat Night God, they have weakened Night God's power, which is enough. Jing Gyuhame sneered and walked out of the base. A total of 100 Holy Domain experts were guarding the door. This was all the combat power of Jing Gyuhame. Among them, there were about 10 sacred players. The life and death battle is about to begin. If we cannot defeat Team Yagamai, our entire war zone will be destroyed, Jing Gyuhame said solemnly. You must know that her subordinates are all strong men from the Japanese war zone, the Dark Alliance and the Neutral Alliance. They have no choice but to temporarily seek refuge with Jing Guheim. Under normal circumstances, they may not be obedient. However, when Jing Gyuji said this, all the powerful men in the Holy Realm nodded seriously. It was really a life and death battle now, and they couldn't do it without fighting. Okay, rush with me. Jing Gyuji smiled with satisfaction and led the team to fly towards the battlefield. The Light Alliance, Dark Alliance, and Neutral Alliance representing the factions in the Japanese war zone have all been destroyed. All Japanese players and NPCs cannot even use the teleportation stone in the main city. The misery doesn't stop there, the alliance was destroyed and the military rank system disappeared. In other words, Jing Gyuhame and others no longer have military ranks. Not only do they lose the increase in military rank medals, they also lose their fighting spirit. Jing Guheim herself is only a major general, with level 4 fighting spirit, but she can also double her attack and double her defense. Without fighting spirit at this moment, her combat effectiveness has plummeted again. I'm afraid it's not as good as the current Jian Wuhen. The alliance was destroyed, but it can actually be rebuilt. The method of reconstruction is very simple. Spend money to re-register in the main city and re-establish the alliance headquarters and branches in the main city. Moreover, registrants will be directly awarded the rank of lieutenant general, and can be promoted to up to 10 major generals, 100 colonels, 500 lieutenant colonels, 1,000 majors. Obviously, the cost of rebuilding the alliance is high, but it is always a matter of money. Jing Gyuji has a lot of money, but now is not the time. After all, rebuilding the alliance requires the establishment of alliance headquarters and branches in the main city. Now that she doesn't have a main city, how dare she be so presumptuous? There is only one battle to recapture at least a few main cities. On the other side, the main city battlefield. Yuchen and Jian Wuhen acted separately to assist their subordinates in killing the enemy quickly. Arthur also pulls and collects the line in various ways to harvest quickly. As time passed, the forces of both sides were consumed again, with only about 50 sanctuary subordinates left. Obviously, Yuchen's side has the advantage, and as long as they continue to fight, they will definitely win. But suddenly, Jing Gyuhame arrived at the battlefield with her army. As soon as they entered the range of the war domination circle, a blue light like a soul chain appeared between Arthur, Jing Gyuhame, and others. As the blue light increases, Arthur's combat effectiveness also becomes stronger. One skill can deal 500 million damage without any problem, and the killing speed speeds up again. Jing Gyuji, Jian Wuhen and others looked at Shen Gongji again, bringing 100 strong men from the Holy Realm, their faces full of solemnity, because the advantage they finally gained was instantly equalized. The despair didn't stop there. As the war continued, war roars suddenly came from the entire battlefield. Ye Chen and others scanned the surroundings and discovered that countless Japanese players were rushing over without fear of death, more than 50,000 in number. Why do you say they are not afraid of death? Because all of these 50,000 people are players over level 60, they are simply cannon fodder. But even cannon fodder is very useful to Arthur. Arthur is the marshal, and his commander value is 20,000. At this moment, as 50,000 troops entered the battlefield, Arthur's body shot out densely, with more than 10,000 blue light waves like soul chains. More than 10,000 soul chains connect more than 10,000 of the 50,000 cannon fodder. At this moment, Arthur, from beginning to end, every part of his body, eyes, hair, nose, mouth, ears, hands, feet, all emit blue light, and the whole thing looks like a blue light emitter. People with trypophobia may be frightened and faint after just one look. The next moment, Arthur doubled in size in the dazzling blue light. War Master, the ultimate mode. Marshal is the highest military rank, and the commander is worth 20,000. At this moment, Arthur is commanding an army of 20,000, and his attack power and defense are directly increased by 200 times. At this moment, any of Arthur's skills will probably cause about 50 billion damage. If he uses shared dragon slaying, he still doesn't know how many trillions of damage he will deal. In addition to damage, there is also defense. Now Arthur and Yuchen can't break through the defense at all. Invincible. Hey, is it true? Jian Wuhan looked at Arthur, who was surrounded by dazzling blue light. At this moment, Arthur's body had doubled in size and looked extremely scary. Jian Wuhan's face felt as if a basin of water had been poured on him, cold sweat dripped down his face, and his eyes showed fear. In his opinion, the current Arthur is even more terrifying than Yechen 10 years later. Gurgle. The Saint Domain warriors were so scared that they dared not move, their faces were covered with cold sweat, and they made embarrassing sounds of swallowing saliva when their mouths opened and closed. Queen, thank you for your help. Don't worry, as long as I am here, I will be able to annihilate these garbage and take back this main city, no, all the main cities in the Japanese war zone, and then give them to you. The huge Arthur laughed wildly in the air. Zhaozhan.com. At present, this main city has been captured by Leon, which means that Leon is the city lord. And the city lord has the authority to set anyone to use the teleportation stone of the main city. Leon can naturally set some players in the Russian war zone, but even if he sets it, the other party does not have the teleportation stone of this main city. And more importantly, the current war is at its most intense moment, so he naturally dare not be distracted to set these now. Because of this, Jing Ongji brought people here, which is a great help to Arthur. Well, Arthur, Leon, thank you both. I will definitely fulfill my promise to you too, Jing Gyuji said in a little woman's manner, a little shy and charming. Gurgle. Not only Arthur and Leon, seeing the peerless Jing Gyuji posing in such a little woman's manner, almost everyone present swallowed their saliva in an indecent manner. 010. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 549. Mobile reading. At this moment, the players in the Japanese war zone are all staring at the shy Jing Gyuji with fiery and obsessed eyes. Jing Gyuji's words made their hearts ripple. They are not all fools. The war zone represents the country, and there is no pure friendship between each other. The current Japanese war zone is already dying. The Russian war zone does not take the opportunity to harvest a wave, but instead helps to support. If there is no secret transaction, they will never believe it. At this moment, Jing Gyuji looks at the brothers Arthur and Leon, rarely showing a little woman's posture, and her eyes are even more tender, which immediately makes them imagine infinitely. How can they still not understand the content of this transaction at this moment? I only hate that I don't have the strength, otherwise, Jing Gyuji's trading partner might be them. Once they think of the cold and beautiful queen taking off her clothes, putting down her pride and rolling back and forth on Arthur and Leon, making a moan. They can't help but spurt their blood, and they are extremely jealous of the brothers Arthur and Leon. Dirty deal. Not only in the Japanese war zone, everyone present understood it. Jian Wuhan snorted disdainfully, and the Saint Domain strongmen were also extremely embarrassed. Hurry up and consume Arthur's subordinates. Ye Chen had no time to worry about that kind of thing. He only had the battle in his eyes and the way to solve the current dilemma. Obviously, the more team members Arthur had, the stronger he was. At this moment, he could only kill and consume Arthur's subordinates to reduce his ability. With this thought, Ye Chen threw out a sea of fire with his bare hands and burned it on the streets of the main city. His sea of fire did not cause much damage, which was relative to the Saint Domain strongmen. The group attack of 1 million damage made the Saint Domain strongmen only 1/10,000th. However, for ordinary players, it was a simple and gorgeous instant kill. With a whoosh, the sea of fire descended, and countless screams sounded in an instant, and thousands of Japanese players were killed instantly. It's a pity that the sea of fire cannot move, otherwise, even if there are tens of thousands of cannon fodder, he can clear them in minutes. Xiao He also followed suit and threw an invisible sea of fire to the other side, instantly killing thousands of people. This is extremely weird. You should know that the sea of fire released by Xiao He is invisible to everyone except Ye Chen. Beside the invisible sea of fire, a group of Japanese players looked at their partner's inexplicable death, and their faces were covered with cold sweat. They ran away frantically, and because they couldn't see, many people rushed into the invisible sea of fire and were burned to death in an instant. Invisible killing, the terrifying and weird atmosphere spread, and a group of Japanese players were scared and sweating. Good. Overlord is mighty. Seeing Ye Chen kill more than 2,000 Japanese players in a flash, making Arthur, who had doubled in size, a little smaller, Jian Wuhan and many strong men in the Holy Domain cheered loudly, and followed suit, slaughtering the enemies on the battlefield crazily. For a moment, several seas of fire burned on the streets of the main city. It was obviously the fire magic sanctuary of Ye Chen's side. Their damage is not as good as Ye Chen's. The sea of fire can attack less than 100,000 people per second, but it can also kill ordinary players in seconds. Moreover, their sea of fire has a higher level and a larger range. In just 1 or 2 seconds, more than half of the 50,000 reinforcements that had just arrived from the Japanese war zone were killed. Most of them had soul chains with Arthur, which made Arthur's amplification smaller and his swollen body smaller. At this moment, it was only 1.5 times the size of an ordinary person. Humph, useless work, Arthur sneered, opened the commander again, and once again filled up the 20,000 man team and restored the ultimate mode. You know, the commander is much more powerful than a simple team, and the team can only invite one person at a time. And the commander can directly pull the team. Hiss. Looking at Arthur, who has restored the ultimate mode of war domination again, a group of sanctuary strongmen took a breath. Don't panic, just keep killing, Jian Wuhan roared. Hearing this, the saints nodded again, and various large-scale skills were used to kill instantly. However, the range of these so-called large-scale skills was less than 1/10 of the sea of fire, and it was already good to kill dozens or hundreds of people at a time. The sea of fire could not move. After releasing it to burn a wave of people, other enemies would naturally not be stupid enough to rush into the sea of fire. Only Xiao He's invisible sea of fire would occasionally pick up a few heads. Obviously, their slaughter efficiency was not as good as that of Commander Arthur. Finally, Destruction Storm. Xiao He suddenly turned into a battle gyroscope in mid-air, began to spin rapidly, and shot out countless dark red flame darts, sweeping in all directions. Of course, although the flame darts shot by Xiao He's destruction storm were dark red, only Ye Chen could see them. The flame darts swept wildly, killing people invisibly, slaughtering thousands of people in 1 second, with terrifying efficiency that made people tremble. As for Ye Chen's final blow and fighting spirit, Arthur had been specifically banning him from using the Destruction Storm to harvest. At this moment, he could only move quickly, pulling the battle gyro transformed by Xiao He to move quickly, and maximize the power of the Destruction Storm. And such a scene, Wuxian. See, outsiders could not see it at all. They only saw that wherever Ye Chen walked, there were piles of corpses falling. What's wrong with Ye Chen? Invisible killing, Shen Gongji was stunned with shock. Now compared with Ye Chen, although both of them are titled kings, she is obviously far from being Ye Chen's opponent. Ye Chen's various terrifying and weird methods made her overwhelmed. Arthur saw his subordinates dying one after another, and his swollen body shrinking. He was furious and roared, "Die!" After saying that, Arthur reeled in the line to a player closest to Ye Chen. Suddenly, the player was stabbed to death by a fire dart, causing him to stop reeling in the line. With a roar, Arthur could only temporarily give up Ye Chen and reel in the line again to slaughter Jian Wuhan and others. Seconds. Although Arthur is not in the ultimate mode of the War Master now, any skill can deal more than 20 billion damage. Neither Jian Wuhan nor other Saint Domain Masters can bear it. Moreover, his reeling speed is second only to teleportation. In just 3 seconds, he slaughtered more than 10 Saint Domain Masters on Ye Chen's side. At this time, Xiao He's destructive storm has ended. Ye Chen looked at the dead Saint Domain Masters and hated them in his heart. He had never expected this situation today. Because the Beyblade Warrior suit could not keep up with the rhythm, he locked it in the warehouse. At this moment, he did not have the Beyblade Warrior suit to change into. Xiao He was his shadow. If he did not change into suit, Xiao He could not change into suit. Without the Beyblade Warrior suit, both the Blade Storm and the Destruction Storm would only last for 3 seconds. At this moment, Xiao He's Destruction Storm had cooled down, and Ye Chen could only watch his subordinates in the sanctuary being killed by Arthur one by one. 7. Sikusu. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wangshi-san. Chapter 550. Mobile reading. Devil, don't come here. Puff. A strong man from the sacred realm in the Chinese war zone, facing the terrifying Arthur, was so frightened that he trembled all over and ran staggeringly in the air. The next moment, Arthur retracted his line and arrived in front of a Japanese player on the street at a speed second only to teleportation. His swollen body was much larger than that of the Japanese player. And dense blue light extends from all over the body, making it like a blue light emitter, dazzling. Then, Arthur stood up from the ground, creating a shock wave. In an instant, he was close to the strong man in the Holy Realm. He cut him in half with a sweeping sweep of the sword, and blood shot out like a fountain, which was extremely poignant. "Arthur, take my move, Poisonous Dragon Sting." The roar of Netherworld came out of thin air, but no one was there. Netherworld was a thief, and he was clearly in hiding at this moment. His roars were coming from far away, but Arthur just sneered and stood motionless in mid-air. Bang! The next moment, Arthur received a heavy blow, but his swollen and huge body remained motionless. The poisonous gas spread, causing a series of damage values to appear above his head, -1, -1, -1. I can't break the defense. After the attack, Netherworld enters the attack state and appears automatically. At this moment, he maintained the posture of stabbing Arthur with a dagger, but after seeing the damage, his face suddenly filled with despair. Only then did he realize the horror of the War Master. The more subordinates the commander has, all attributes will increase. Death to trash. Well. Arthur smiled contemptuously, and swept the broadsword towards Netherworld's throat like lightning. The violent pressure hit Netherworld, and Netherworld couldn't move because of fear and cold sweat on his face. He didn't even have time to scream, his proud head was cut off brutally by Arthur, blood spurted out and flew away, and his death was extremely miserable. Netherworld. Seeing the tragic death of his first sanctuary subordinate, Yechen felt suffocated in his heart. He looked at Arthur with a ferocious expression, his teeth clashed and he almost wanted to burst. Overlord, avenge us. The Chinese theater will definitely win. The next 10 seconds or so were the longest time Yechen had ever spent in his life. One by one, sanctuary subordinates died tragically. In the end, apart from Arthur and others, he was the only one left on the entire battlefield. NPCs only have one life, and when they die, they really die. This makes some emotional players care about NPCs. Yechen is not a sentimental person. Yuming, Chen Yang, and others were his first batch of sanctuary subordinates. At this moment, they died tragically in front of him, and Yechen felt inexplicable pain in his heart. Haha, Queen, only Yechen is left now. Don't worry, he is no match for me now. Arthur laughed loudly, his huge body standing in the air, arrogantly looking down on the others. Well, King Arthur's heroic spirit impressed my little girl. Jingji smiled charmingly, which made Arthur's heart agitated again. He wished he could kill Yechen in an instant, end this boring battle, and then rush to Japan to change his mind. The goddess in the middle is pressed beneath her. After a few breaths, Arthur quickly gathered the charm in his heart and rushed towards Yechen. Just as Netherworld had guessed before he died, Arthur's war domination circle is an increase in all attributes, not only damage, defense, stiffness, but also speed, life, etc. At this moment, there are about 10,000 people in the blue circle. Although Arthur is not the ultimate mode of war master, all attributes are increased by 100 times. The speed of his mad rush was outrageous, much faster than Yechen's speed. Die! Arthur sneered and was about to cut off Yechen's head with a knife, but Yechen suddenly disappeared and entered a state of invisibility. Strong invisibility is a high-end invisibility technique that cannot be detected unless it is sensed. Quick, sea of fire, Arthur roared, and immediately there were fire magic sanctuaries spreading multiple flame walls in the sky. Although the strong concealment cannot be seen through, as long as it is put into attack mode, it can be forced to appear. However, the multiple flame walls in the sky failed to seal Yechen. Maybe on the ground, Arthur yelled again. The next moment, the streets of the main city were bursting into flames. At this moment, the fire spell among the tens of thousands of Japanese players can't break Yechen's defense. It doesn't matter. Once it is burned, it will forcefully draw out a little blood, which will force Yechen out. It's a pity that the wall of flames in the sky and the dense sea of fire underground could not force Yechen out. The scope of this battlefield is too large, and Yechen is extremely fast, so avoiding the sea of fire is a piece of cake. Huh, you're being clever. That's all. Anyway, the forced concealment can only last for 10 seconds. He can't escape from this battlefield, Arthur roared, standing in the air with a confident smile on his face. Next, Arthur began to wait silently. However, before 10 seconds came, Xiao Hei's destruction storm cooled down first. Destroying storm. In an instant, Xiao Hei turned into a battle top again, spinning rapidly and shooting countless flame darts, massacring the enemy crazily. Yechen's mission is to lead Xiao Hei away to maximize the power of the destructive storm. Puff puff puff. A large number of enemy troops were pierced by flame darts and killed instantly. The dull sounds undulated with each other, making Arthur, Leon, Jingji and others frown and puzzled. Hey, are you kidding me? These people were killed by Night God. Why hasn't he shown up yet? Arthur was furious. No matter what kind of invisibility means, once the attack enters the attack state, he will show up. This is common sense in Dream World. But since Night God has killed people, Why hasn't he shown up yet? Could it be, these people were not killed by Night God? Damn it, it's impossible. What's going on? Does Night God have a pet that can be invisible, or a summoned creature? Seeing his subordinates die in large numbers, the team shrinks rapidly, and his amplification power also weakens. He becomes anxious. Soon 3 seconds passed, and all the Japanese players died, including Liang and Jingguji, and no one was spared. Ye Chen's damage is off the charts, and Xiao He is his shadow, with all his attributes, and it is also off the charts. Any fire dart of the destruction storm will cause over 100 million damage. Who among the players can withstand it except Arthur? At this moment, the Japanese players on the battlefield were all killed, leaving only Arthur and about 150 Saint Domain strongmen. Arthur and these Saint Domain strongmen were also swept by the flame darts, and their HP dropped by more than 1/3. Arthur's subordinates decreased, and the amplification power of the War Master's magic circle decreased. At this moment, he returned to the size of an ordinary person, and all attributes increased by only 1.5 times. Arthur is the War Master. This profession has a low foundation and relies entirely on the power of amplification. Now his combat power is probably not as good as Jian Wuhan, let alone Ye Chen's opponent. 7. Sikusu,